Hello, and thank you for selecting the smartphone app for scheduling irrigation on cotton. My name is George Velitis. I'm a professor of agricultural engineering at the University of Georgia. The Cotton app is one of a series of 4 apps developed by colleagues at the University of Florida and the University of Georgia. You can find all 4 of these apps at smartirrigationapps.org. The website also includes tutorials and detailed information about how these apps work. So let's begin by describing the Cotton app. The Cotton app is initiated by tapping on the icon on the desktop of your smartphone. If this is the first time you're using the app, the screen that you will see will be the one in the middle of the page. This is the page where you will establish the location of your new field and also subsequently enter information about the field. The smartphone app wants to use the GPS locator that's built into your smartphone. It'll ask you for permission to do this. Please say yes. In other words, allow it to use your GPS locator. Once you've given permission, the app will use the current lat-long coordinates of your phone to locate the field. If this is not the proper location of the field, in other words, if you're not where the field is at the moment, then you can put your finger on the red push pin and drag the push pin to the proper location of the field. If you need to, you can expand or decrease the size of the map by putting 2 fingers on here and expanding or contracting the area that you can view inside this window. Once you're happy with the location of your field, you can begin to enter other information about the field. The first thing that you should enter is the name of the field. You can enter this information in this part of the screen by typing in the proper name. After that, please enter the planting date of the cotton. It is best to begin running the app for a particular field when you have planted the cotton. After you have selected the name of the field and the planting date, the next thing you'll be asked to do is to select which weather station you want the app to pull data from. The app will be using a series of weather stations in Georgia and Florida, and I'll describe those in more detail on the next slide. But the app will automatically find the closest weather stations to you and will select the closest one as the default weather station. If you think another weather station, for example, in this case, if you think the Arapahoe weather station will provide better information to you than the Tifton Bowen Farm weather station, you can select the Arapahoe weather station. The weather stations are a key part of this app. We use the data from the weather stations to estimate how much rain has fallen on the field and also to estimate the weather parameters that affect how much water the crop is using. There are 83 weather stations in Georgia and 35 weather stations in Florida that are currently being used by the app. So right now the footprint of the app is inside these 2 states. If you want to use the app outside these 2 states, then you have to enter many of the environmental parameters. After you've selected the weather station, the next piece of information you have to enter is the soil type that represents your field the best. So we have a series of 7 types of soils that you can select, ranging from sand to clay. You can press the screen near the name of the soil type that you want, and that will become your default soil for that field. The final piece of information that you are asked to enter here is the default rate of your irrigation system. So this is the amount of water that will be applied when you normally irrigate. So if it's 1 inch, what you need to do is go down here to the bottom of the screen and plus minus the amount until you have the correct amount. The default amount that the app begins with is 1/2 inch. It's very important that you enter this information correctly because this is how much water the app will add every time you tell it that you've irrigated. Finally, this is the end of the entering information phase. You can press the save up at the top right of the screen, and all your selections will be saved to the database of the app. You're now ready to start using the app. This is the main screen of the app that you will see every time you enter the app from now on. You can adjust any of the parameters you've just entered by touching the Edit Field button here. If you also want to delete the field that you've just entered, you can go back into the Edit Field area You'll see a small trash can that will appear up at the top of the screen here. You can press the trash can, and that will delete the field from the database. You can also add new fields at any time by using the plus sign that's up here at the top right of the screen. The plus sign will take you back into the very first screen of the app where you're entering the location of the field, and you'll move through all those screens as we did in the tutorial a moment ago. So now let's discuss the business end of the app. This is how the app keeps its soil water balance that you see indicated here, and how the app calculates the growth stage of the plant. These are both very important parameters for the app to operate properly. So let's talk about the soil water balance first. The app operates by establishing, let's say, a pot of soil beneath a plant, and it keeps track of how much water is in this pot of soil. The balance is calculated by estimating on a daily basis how much water the plant uses with evapotranspiration and how much water is added from rain or irrigation. If the soil profile is full of water, then we have 100% of available soil moisture, and our deficit of soil water is at 0%. As the plant starts to use water, then that deficit increases. In other words, the amount of soil moisture available in the soil profile decreases over time. We have set the threshold for scheduling irrigation at 50% of available soil moisture. In other words, once half the moisture in the soil profile has been used, we recommend that you irrigate. So how does the app estimate evapotranspiration of the crop? We do this by calculating theoretical evaporation from parameters we collect from the weather stations that report to the app. So that's why it's very important to have a weather station that you think is operating properly be part of the app. We multiply that theoretical evapotranspiration by a crop coefficient, and from that we estimate how much water the plant is using. This is the crop evapotranspiration. The crop coefficient is a critical part of estimating crop evapotranspiration because it allows us to change the rates at which the plant uses water through the plant's life cycle, as you can see indicated by this curve here. The bottom axis here shows accumulated heat units or growing degree days, while the top axis shows approximately days after planting. We trigger the crop coefficient changes according to growth stage based on the growing degree days, because if you have a week or two of cloudy, cool weather, the plant is not going to develop as quickly as it would if those 2 weeks were sunny and hot. And so accumulated heat units is a better indicator of how quickly the plant develops. So back to the business screen of the app and how it works. This is the part of the app that you'll be watching on a daily basis if you use the app. This little bar here indicates our pot of soil that we discussed a couple slides ago. The blue indicates the level of soil moisture in that soil profile. The number here indicates the percent deficit, in other words, how much of the water has been used. This is also indicated by how many inches of water that's represented by. So from day to day, you'll see this percent deficit change. If there's no rain and the plants are growing, then this deficit will increase. In other words, more water will be used in the soil profile. Once it rains or it irrigates, the blue bar will go back up as the soil moisture is replenished. We'll talk about irrigation in the next couple of slides. Down here at the bottom, you can see an indicator of how the crop is growing, its growth stage. This bubble with the number of growing degrees that have been accumulated to date will move to the right as the growing season progresses, and will go through phase changes or growth stages of the plant. When you have exceeded the 50% deficit irrigation threshold that we discussed, the app will push a notification to you. So when you wake up in the morning and it's time to irrigate, you'll see this notification from the app. Really, you don't have to check the app on a daily basis unless you just want to. The notifications will tell you when it's time to do something. So this particular notification tells us that between today and yesterday, we've exceeded the threshold, that our deficit is at 65%. So it's time to add irrigation. The way we add irrigation is by pressing this Add Irrigation button. When you press that Add Irrigation button, the app automatically adds the default amount of irrigation that you indicated in the setup screens earlier. So what you'll see then is that irrigation has been applied. You see that indicated down here, right below your deficit bar. What you'll also see is that it's indicated graphically on the deficit bar. So here's where we were before irrigation was added. This is the amount of water irrigation has supplied to the soil profile. Here's the little indicator that shows you that irrigation was applied, and now our deficit is at 35%, which is within the bounds. If you have accidentally added irrigation, you can tap the remove irrigation button at any time and that irrigation goes away. If the amount of irrigation you added is different from the default amount that you've entered in the setup screen, you can tap See Details, and I'll show you that in just a moment, and correct that. The same thing happens pretty much when you have a rainfall event. You can see that the weather station has picked up a quarter of an inch of rain at the weather station. It shows you that this rain has been recorded, and it shows you what effect the rain has had on the deficit. So we've gone from about a 30% deficit, we've reduced that to about a 16% deficit with a quarter of an inch of rain. Again, you can change this all by pressing the See Details button. So if you're unhappy either with the amount of irrigation that's been applied or with the amount of rain that's been observed, you have better data from your personal weather station at your farm, you can tap the See Details screen, and which brings you here, and then you can change the amount of irrigation and the amount of rain that's been recorded by plussing or minusing on these two areas on the See Details screen. I want to point out to you that the amount of irrigation you apply is not really the amount of irrigation we record as being effective for the soil profile. We're estimating that only 85% of the water that's applied, let's say from a center pivot irrigation system, actually reaches the root zone effectively. And so the effective irrigation will be 85% of the amount applied. Likewise, we estimate that only 95% of the rain that reaches, that falls is going to reach the soil profile. So we have that at 95% of rain observed. If you don't agree with this, you can change the numbers here and increase the amount of rain you think has reached the root zone or the amount of irrigation that has reached the root zone. The app also pushes notifications to you when the crop is changing growth stages. So you can see a notification on the left side of the screen. It's telling you that you've reached a growth stage change. If you observe that that is not happening in your field, or that your cotton is changing phases faster than the notifications are telling you, you can adjust the stage by tapping this button here, which takes you to this screen. And depending on which part of the life cycle of the plant you are in, you can use the slider button to change the growing degrees days at which your plant at which your field has changed growth stages. So if you've gone to first flower faster than expected, or to first square faster than expected, then you can move this to the left. If it's taken longer, you can move it to the right. This adjusts the crop coefficient that the app uses, and it's very important for estimating accurately crop water use. Okay, let me show you now how you can look at information from other fields. If you've got 3 fields or more, if you've got more than one field as part of the app, you can see that indicated by the number of dots at the top of the screen here. In this particular example, we have 3 fields. You can go from field to field by swiping horizontally in this area of the app. Likewise, we store and make viewable 9 days of data for you, and that's indicated by the dots here. You can see this is today's information. You can see yesterday's, the day before yesterday's, and so on by swiping with your finger in this part of the app and going left or right. Likewise, you can swipe left and right here to see the different growth stages of the crop. The final thing I want to show you today is how you look at the different menus that are available in the app. If you touch the top left part of the screen where the 3 horizontal bars are, this takes you to the menu of the app. The main is this page that we've been discussing for the past few minutes. There's a forecast, there are notifications that are stored, and you can learn more information about the app. The notifications are all the notifications that have been pushed to you about all the fields by the app, and you can see them all stored here, so you can take a look at what's been stored. The forecast is the National Weather Service forecast. It gives you the current information for your field. It gives you hourly forecast, plus it gives you the forecast for the next 5 days. If you want to see what the forecast is for your other fields, if they're in different locations or in different counties, you can move backwards and forwards between your fields by touching on the arrow bars up at the top right of the screen. We certainly hope that this app will meet your expectations. We hope that you will use it. I want to emphasize to you again that the app will provide only recommendations for irrigation to you. It is up to you to schedule those irrigations. And if you really want the app to operate properly, you have to record all your irrigations and, if possible, correct rainfall amounts, because the amounts that the weather station sees may not be as accurate as the amounts that you see on your field. If you have any information that you'd like to share with me, or you have any questions, I'd be happy to hear from you. My email address is shown here on this slide. Please feel free to drop me an email at any time, and I'll answer your questions as quickly as I can. And finally, we have this acknowledgement slide, which shows you all the partners of this project, as well as the funding agencies that provided research funds for us to develop the series of apps. We certainly thank all of our sponsors, because without them, none of this work would have been possible. Thank you again, and I hope you have great success using the app in 2014.